السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وبعد. All praise and glory and thanks belong to Allah. We ask Allah to guide us, to keep us constantly under His care, to protect us from our own follies, from our own weaknesses, our own shortcomings, deficiencies that we have in our worship, from our failings, incapabilities, sins, ignorance, a whole host of things we can think of which are negative, which makes us incomplete. So we ask Allah to protect us and help us despite ourselves, and help us against our incompleteness. We also ask Allah that He grants us wisdom, that He grants us patience, and He increases our knowledge, and He makes us such people that through our good behavior and by His grace and mercy, we become successful not only in this life, but also in the hereafter. Those whom Allah guides, nobody can mislead them, and those whom He leaves to stray, nobody can guide them. I testify that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, the one who has no partners, and I also testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is Allah's final messenger to all of humanity till the end of time. The hish reminded me to switch my mobile into my silent mode as well. Okay, alhamdulillah. I mean, so we are, alhamdulillah, our brothers and sisters, of course, in faith, and we are always going to be encountering various difficulties in life. One of the trends that's happening nowadays, which is seen to be like a revival of Islam, or perhaps a rejuvenation of faith, things that are happening around us in terms of more talks, more awareness, greater interest shown in Islam, more commitment perhaps in calling others to the deen, by taking part in various activities, whether a da'wah table outside or hosting a seminar or an exhibition. So what we interpret all these signs to mean is that perhaps there is a revival of and a rejuvenation of Islam. And that's all very good and well, and that is something praiseworthy and something that should make any Muslim happy, whether knowledgeable or ignorant. If he or she is a Muslim, we like the fact that people are becoming more closer to Allah, and the truth is finding better expression in life. But countering that, sometimes we have to, as we say, not sober up because we are not overexcited about it, but we need to little bit think and pause for reflection and understand what is really happening, because either we are developing a type of Islamic awareness and learning and spreading which is making us closer to Allah in the real sense. Each one of us individually feel drawn towards Allah. We feel our hearts are being purified. We feel more spiritual, if you like. I don't know what the better word in English is. More ruhaniya, more spiritual, more kind of humble, more love for God and so forth. Or we don't. We just enjoy the fact that so-and-so speaker is charismatic and can articulate well. Such and such a sister is very good at presenting information, and the event passed very well. People praised. So we need to sometimes counterbalance that happiness of seeing Islam spread with the awareness of truly, are we coming forward to Islam because of its entertainment value? That we see some kind of enjoyment in spreading and dealing with Islam, as it were, learning and so forth? Or is it because we are actually finding greater satisfaction personally, individually, with Allah? Ar-rida ma'allah, satisfaction with Allah. Or ar-rida, the satisfaction or contentment, anillah, concerning Allah. Do we feel that? Do we feel we are more contented, becoming more beloved of Allah, to Allah? So that is something which each one of us can only individually do. And the topic, as we had mentioned before, the love as mentioned in the Quran, the Sunnah, is really about that. It's nothing else. It's not about criticizing one another. It is not about becoming anything except to become more aware in terms of our relationship with Allah, so that we become individually more responsible about how we think we are preparing to meet Him on the Day of Judgment. It's a subtle discussion, and we can easily tread on many people's feet. I'm afraid sometimes I do tread on a lot of people's feet, but I think the only excuse I will have, perhaps, inshallah, through your prayers and with your prayers and support, is sincerity. If you and I are sincere, then we need to be self-critical a little bit and wonder about, are we really spreading Islam for enjoyment? Is this fun? There are gains to be made, and perhaps we are not overall malicious or evil intended, but is it really for us individually becoming more responsible and more beloved to Allah? And that's a subtle distinction. And with that in mind, I'm going to read a section from chapter 16, Surah Al-Nahl, and then launch into the topic. At the outset, I would like to warn you that I'll have to keep on frequently turning my back towards you and referring to the screen, because first of all, I haven't memorized these things, and my memory is not that great, so even after 70 years, I still have to keep on reading and referring to notes, either stumble and forget and get confused. And secondly, the notes are not in my hand because I couldn't get the printer working. And the network connection is not there either, so neither email nor printer, nothing. So I had to then take a USB card, and Brother Hirsch kindly kind of set me up for it. Jazakallahu khairan. So I have to keep on reading the screen and maybe stuttering, muttering a bit. But I still want to continue with the topic, inshallah. So let's listen to the Quran first, inshallah ta'ala, the English translation, and put us in that frame of mind. Closeness to Allah, nearness to Allah, being reflective and so forth. In the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. He has created the heavens and the earth for just ends. This is from Ayah 3. Forgot to write it down as well. It's chapter 16, Ayah 3. He has created the heavens and the earth for just ends. Far is He above having the partners they ascribe to Him. He has created man from a drop of sperm, and behold, the same man becomes an open disputer. And cattle He has created for you. From them you derive warmth and numerous benefits, and of their meat you eat. And you have a sense of pride and beauty in them, as you drive them home in the evening, and as you lead them forth to pasture in the morning. And they carry your heavy loads to lands that you could not otherwise reach, except with great distress. For your Lord is indeed most kind, most merciful. And He has created horses, mules, and donkeys for you to ride and use for show. And He has created other things of which you have no knowledge. And unto Allah leads straight the way, but there are ways that turn aside. If Allah had willed, He could have guided all of you. It is He who sends down rain from the sky. From it you drink, and out of it grows the vegetation on which you feed your cattle. With it He produces for you corn, olives, date palms, grapes, and every kind of fruit. Indeed, in this is a sign for those who give thought. He has made subject to you the night and the day, the sun and the moon, and the stars are in subjection by His command. Indeed, in this are signs for people who are wise. And the things on this earth which He has multiplied in different colors and qualities. Indeed, in this is a sign for people who celebrate the praises of Allah. It is He who has made the sea subject, that you may eat thereof flesh that is fresh and tender, and that you may extract therefrom ornaments to wear. And you see the ships therein that plough the waves, that you may seek of the bounty of Allah, and that you may be grateful. And He has set up on the earth mountains standing firm, unless it should shake with you, and rivers and roads, that you may guide yourselves, and marks and signposts, and by the stars people do guide themselves. Is then He who creates like one that does not? Will you then not receive the admonition or warning? It's a very long passage I chose to read today, but it's about reflecting on Allah. So hopefully it has put us in some type of a frame of mind, we can say God consciousness, awareness. So this is chapter 3. I started from 3 and I finished at 17, and 17 finished with a question. A question was posed at the end of a series of observations that we can make about the creation in which we live. And that observation we cannot make unless we choose to see. And not just look and let it pass by, then think about what we saw. So it's like in a train journey, we're seeing things go past very quickly, but something makes us wonder. We take a second glance, we try and look up and then still catch a view as it recedes into the background. And life is like that. Life is passing, time is going, and it seems to be going very fast. And yet, paradoxically, we have enough time to reflect very deeply about the tiniest thing if we choose to. We wish we can. And some people may say you're being petty, but that's up to you and me to decide what is petty, what is not. I could sit and think for hours, or in 5 minutes, but very deeply, about a grain of sand. Or, why did he say that to me? And why did he look at me like this? Or why did she smile that way and not the other way? You know, we can think very deeply about things we choose. And yet life is moving very fast. And we never, it seems, spend enough time, that 5 minutes, in deep thinking about two very important aspects of who we are. Life, our lives, souls, hearts, our being, and equally importantly, if not more, God, Allah. And all of creation should be directing us towards helping to understand not just the existence of Allah, that is evident, manifest and evident in every single atom of creation, but we can say something about Allah. I was going to say nature, that, or the essence. No, something about Allah. He's Ar-Rahman, the merciful. His that, in essence, is merciful. A moment of reflection, let alone deep reflection about creation itself, should help us to understand Allah in terms of His nature, that He is kind and merciful in essence. It's not just about the existence of God. That's the first step. And that's a reflective type of heart we don't seem to cultivate. We don't seem to bring about through taking time out in this fast-paced life with too many distractions, and we have a place to go to on that fast train journey. But we can't avoid but look out of the window and we see things, and sometimes one or two things make us look twice and perhaps try and lean out of the window. And we don't do that. And there are so many things happening in front of us, to my individual life, to world affairs, to just the way the universe is, looking at the stars to the blade of grass. And that's what this talk is about, and should be for each one of us in our own peculiar, personal way, and increasing knowledge, inshallah. So, do you have any comments so far? Tell me something about what you felt. We read a long section. Anything? What did you notice? Yes, sure.
The whole passage to me seemed like Allah's constantly telling us all the favours He gave us first, before He goes on to how amazing He is.
Favours of Allah. And that's a fantastic word to use. Something to feel from the heart. Gratitude. It evokes sentiments of gratitude. It evokes feelings of, I have been benefited. I have, been advantaged or something. I have gained. A favour is something which you gain for free. And it's like, oh, the other person didn't have to do it and gave me that, so he did me a favour. My parents, we can say, love me and has a duty towards me. But my father, my father bought me my house. And he wasn't a terribly rich man, but he was able to, so he did, but he didn't have to. So he did a favour. Did he do his fatherly duty? Yes. Did he love me? Yes. But he did a favour. But it can be sometimes nothing like that. It can be something simpler. So gratitude, benefit, all these things come into it. Recognition of the value. Allah has favoured us with life, existence itself. Allah has favored us in all sorts of ways, which makes us people who should draw closer to Him out of love. Isn't it? My father didn't have to give me a house. He could have just given me £10,000 or something and said, pay me back later. But he gave me a whole house and said, well, pay me when you can if you want. And I never did, except a tiny amount. So he did me a favour, so that should make me more loving towards him, shouldn't it, as a human being? Now think of anything that Allah has done for you and I. Anything whatsoever. Did He have to? Did He need to? Is He forced to? God by definition, is He constrained to? Bound to? No. So when He is giving us life and He is giving us the stars and the moon and the air to breathe or anything that happens around us to make life not only sustainable but in order to make it flourish and sets the conditions right and fine-tunes or balances everything, what is He doing it out of? Anger? Tyranny? Ignorance? You can't think of anything negative. But in the end, you may say because He's wise. You may say He is intelligent, supremely capable, able, al-qadir. But why though? Somebody is able, knowledgeable, wise. Why should He do something? Why should He do a favor though? If it is not for out of mercy, or we can say love. I mean, it's very simple. It's almost like a child kind of thinking. When somebody does something good and you feel happy and then you feel a bit grateful. But it's like that. We have to, as Muslims, people who have recognized Allah in His oneness, who subscribe to our Tawheed and know so much in detail about Allah, try to feel this love for Allah. When we do that, things become easier and simpler. We can still be moved and be saddened and become angered and frustrated through life, but this overtakes, and that needs working at. Like any relationship, even with a pet we have, you have to work at it, isn't it? You keep a cat in the house or a dog or something, you still have to bathe it, wash it, comb it, get rid of flea to, toilet train, whatever you have to do. We work at any relationship, even with the animals. We have horse, grooming it, cattle we keep for plowing the land, let alone human relationship. We have to work at it. But we can interact physically, can't we? With a cat, I can stroke it and make it purr and stroke its belly or something. With Allah, how is this two-way relationship going to be affected? I know Allah is there. Not only Allah is there, Allah has done me favors. Now how do I work at it? If it's not going to be through reflection which produces genuine worship and feelings of all those things about gratitude and thankfulness and so forth. So I can't really cultivate this and make this grow and work at it to make this relationship, me being servant and Him being Lord and Master, work. I can't do that without one thing in my life, which is reflection, thinking. I have to have thinking. I have to think. So what did we mention before, 2 weeks ago? Tafakkur, wasn't it? Fikr, to have thought, to have reflection, And that's what some of these people are saying here. Al-Hasan al-Basri I mentioned, he said, don't you see how a person contemplates and thus he repents. Therefore contemplation is better than the act itself. That's the initiator, that's the one that clarifies, that removes the veil, that makes us understand and makes the heart sincere. You can do things unthinkingly, being compelled or forced or through habit, but to think, that is where the reward lies. I was about to say the critical word, I stopped, because there's a hadith connected to that. If I had said the critical word, you would have known straight away. I just want to ask you, what do you think that hadith is? The reward lies in that. Our actions are judged by intentions. I was saying intention. Intention. Is that thought, is that feeling, is that calculation we had done, that is where everything is determined. No matter what the outcome is. Because Allah is controlling. Allah is determining. Allah is allowing and not allowing. Allah is letting things happen in a certain way and produce certain effects, no matter what our efforts. But the intention must be pure. And if we corrupt that, it is not really truly fi sabilillah. Who is going to lose? Allah? No. Because we said Allah gives favors because precisely He does not need anything. I will lose, you will lose. So sometimes it does not matter that our contributions or efforts so-called came to nothing in the earthly sense. Came to nothing. They abandoned us, they boycotted us, or the whole thing failed, or some calamity occurred and so we had to cancel the event. And okay. What was the intention? And that's why it might sound like you're being bitter or you're. No, that's why I keep on saying this, because this is a struggle for me, isn't it? And some brothers and sisters understand, and they know when they know me, because they know me quite well. They know when I do these talks, I'm actually talking to myself for my own support. I'm clearing my head. I'm getting my heart clean, as it were, in terms of the work that I do, isn't it? And I come and do it in front of you like a performance for my own benefit first and foremost, and that's where I suppose the sincerity comes from, inshallah. And that in turn may benefit some people. Make sure it's not for rivalry, competition. It's focused on Allah. Do I do that? I mean, this is what the question is for myself. Am I doing? I can't be. You'd be an angel then, won't you? I would be an angel. Am I an angel? Am I sinless? Am I ma'asum? Am I protected by Allah from sins? No. So there has to be a struggle. There has to be ups and downs. There has to be sometimes thinking, oh, I think I went a bit too far in there. I got carried away. Maybe I was showing off. But that process has to be there. Because we lose that, we've lost everything. Lost everything, and nobody is going to support you and I. We know that, and we keep on saying it. Nobody will support us on the Day of Judgment except by myself. It's not worth getting into what I say, quote unquote, the politics of da'wah. Don't do that. Okay, that was Shumi. Favors. Anybody else wants to offer another one? Favors, very good one. That whole passage we read reminds us, and also another word was used, how amazing, you said amazement. Being ta'ajjub. Have this kind of amazement, surprise, astounded, astonished. We think of the magnificence, the greatness of Allah, and we think of the greatness of the creation itself, how intricate, how fantastic. How the odds are actually against life being formed, really. You can't just take a cosmic soup and shake it about for 1 million years and there you go, amino acids and life. It doesn't work like that. So amazement and so on. So next one. There's another one. Ka'b ibn Ahbar said, whoever wishes to attain the honor of the hereafter. Nobody is going to be honored in the hereafter unless Allah has freed us from sins. Because sins will be exposed on the Day of Judgment. And when in front of the billions and billions of people, my sins, my ulterior motives, my polluted thinking, my kind of corrupt intentions are exposed, how will that be? That man and that woman, that group and organization were doing fantastic things and getting money from people, and people were praising, and all the time it was really self-seeking, worldly minded ambitions coloring many things. Isn't that awful? Where will be the honor then? And there's so many hadith like that. You read the Quran so that people might say you are a good reciter, so it was said, and there will be ordered to be dragged on his face into the fire. Yes, you even fought jihad and died in the cause of Allah in the battlefield, but you did so that people might say, what a great warrior, what a valiant warrior. And so it was said. So you got your reward. And you're turned upside down on your face, dragged and thrown into the fire. And those things make us sometimes feel cautious and makes us feel sincere. But it doesn't last long. The only way to make it last outside of an event or a meeting or a talk is reflection oneself. I have to own it. I have to work at it. And that's a continuous process. And every time I become disengaged from that, because life is like that. I'm too busy making sure the eggs don't get overboiled, so I'm boiling eggs even. Or I'm fixing a car engine, I'm landing a plane. I don't bring myself back to it. But its underlying is there, God consciousness. And it's based on love. Love of Allah. So whoever wishes to attain the honor of the hereafter, let him increase in contemplation, because then he will increase in knowledge. So more fikr or worry or thought or thinking we have, more contemplation, it will lead to more knowledge. What knowledge? So if I sit and think about a hadith or an ayah or about a subject which Allah has mentioned in the Quran, like mercy or charity, does it mean I, just by thinking and reflecting deeply, seeing how significant it is, how wonderful it is, how amazing it is, how do I increase in knowledge? What happened? Did I suddenly then next morning I wake up, oh, I actually know 2 more ayat by magic. I just know it. I can mention to you some reference from a book. No. So knowledge is not just what is in the text. It's not what we have just memorized. It's the understanding of it. And sometimes that is not happening and growing because of what I mentioned right at the beginning. I hope we are not making the learning and spreading of Islam into a pop culture, an entertainment culture. For it will spread, more people will come, gain more fame. Isn't it fantastic? Let's go there, and that's a good, the lineup of speakers and stuff. You are not going to such events for the entertainment value. Allah is at the center. What do you feel personally in terms of coming close to God? So that's how it is. More contemplation, the more knowledge. And then even the humblest of a person can teach us the deepest of truth. So who are the humblest of persons? And I will tell you, please don't say scholars, because that will be the automatic reply. Who are the humblest? Who could be the humblest before Allah? The most innocent, purest. Who are the most innocent and purest? Children. Children. So we start thinking and we're reflecting, no ayah hadith, and we reflect even on a piece of information which our Prophet has said, alayhi salam, if it is from the scriptures and does not contradict, you can take it. So we can take what we find in the Gospels about Isa alayhi salam, Jesus Christ, peace be on him, saying, not unless you become like the children, by no means you shall enter the kingdom of heaven. Become innocent. So we can learn from whoever has some wisdom to give. And on that score, this is how some of some people they say, and maybe it's not politically correct, but it depends on the context and the group that the person was speaking to. And I know some of us have made a big thing out of how this so-and-so sheikh actually said, how could he, isn't that foolish? And we made a laughing stock out of him. Well, inshallah I didn't myself. But that this particular sheikh said how he learned humility from a dog. Because we are prejudiced. We've assumed because he's from a so-called Sufi background, therefore he must be laughed at. He's a Sufi, and Sufis are wrong, aren't they? And here's how we kind of black and white and compartmentalize and don't reflect. Just an stray example, because I find a lot of that on the internet. This particular Sufi sheikh being castigated for having said that. In a Friday sermon we have heard it, books we have seen it, on the internet we are seeing it. And the point he makes is perfectly valid and deep. You don't want to be a Sufi, it's up to you. You don't have to laugh at another Muslim for having realized the love of God by looking at his creation. What does that say about our hearts when we adopt attitudes like that? This contemplation. The next one. So we do seek happiness, all the material things that are around us, in a way, whether it's like a field of corn or horses or a big mansion or the foreign exchange currency reserve that we have on account of not wasting everything on paper money but stashing some gold somewhere, Fort Knox or wherever. We take pride in material wealth. Allah refers to that. That is the way of the human heart. We love to be happy. And as we mentioned last time, happiness is something very hard to describe, like love and pain, because these are abstract things, things of the heart. We mentioned this last time. It's very hard to put it in words. It's almost philosophical, and each person has a different take and a perspective or an emphasis on it. But everybody understands and connects. Sometimes we connect to these feelings without opening our mouths or saying a word, don't we? Somebody has a bereavement, and you can feel his or her sadness, and you just go and sit by her side. Don't say a word. Don't have to. And the person understands. Maybe holds your hand or looks at you and sheds a tear and just sit for 5 minutes, and you walk away with a sigh. And that does more than making a speech. Let me come and tell you, fear Allah and be... No. Sometimes that's how it is. So we all want happiness. And we mentioned happiness. One of the ingredients of happiness has to be purity. Remind me, I will put it down, I forget. Purity. Love, happiness, contentment has to do with the purity of the heart. Purity. Okay? So we mentioned purity or nobility, things like that. So there are 4 or 5 things which are constituent of love. Now I want to mention 2 ayat, inshallah ta'ala. But is there a second one we want to say? We said favors and amazement. Is there one more you would like to say? Anything else, or shall we just continue? Yes.
There's one thing that that stood out was everything from the heavens all the way down to the rain had benefits and kind of had a role, but man was the only one that had disputes.
Open disputer. Look at our origin of how we are originated, from the type of material, the process itself, and how it is. In a normal sense of the word, it's not something coming from a respectable place in a respectable manner. So even the process and the whatever, but then we become an open disputer. Everything on the heavens and the earth has benefits, offers benefits, and contains wisdom and glorifies Allah, we can say, by living according to the laws of nature and never doing anything to bring about injustice. Nothing in creation does anything to bring about injustice, except thinking people who have choice, the jinn and human beings. But he's saying man, but human beings and jinn included, how we can become disputed. That's good. Because part of purity is not to be argumentative. To seek nobility, to seek, if you say purity, to seek this kind of preservation of the heart before Allah in love, one needs not to become a disputant against Allah. When we have not understood Allah and reflected enough, we tend to become frustrated with what He has revealed. And we see our desires in revelation. It's like what happened 3 days ago. Some brother mentioned, sent me a 2-liner on Facebook saying, Ya Sheikh, he called me Sheikh. Ya Sheikh, because I went to that Sandringham thing, so did Mojlum Khan and a few other people from Bosho and a few others, and it wasn't just exclusively me kind of thing. And a few people were invited. That was the whole issue, to include communities and organizing groups and people. But it is an honor, isn't it? If I stand up and say to a person, sit down, I have honored him. If a non-Muslim gives up his or her seat for you, he or she has honored you. And you can say, I have been honored by asking to sit down instead of in a tube train or something. To make a big thing out of nothing. So it's not about I've lost faith. And he said, if I didn't have a stammer with my writing, I would have called you a murtad. And that means an apostate. And a kafir. Because you went to drink tea from the Queen. I say, you call me Sheikh, and I know you are younger than some of my children, and you are abusing me in that way. Why? Because they say, because you are living in Darul Harb, the land of war, the Kafirun. You are in the land of war. So I said, that's good, and there should be proper wala and bara, love and hate, associate, disassociation. Okay, here is a 22 and 21-year-old boy, so one should be humble to him perhaps because but he's his purity. So when he said that, so I said to him, okay, that's good. You are not in Darul Harb. I guess you're abroad. You're living amongst the Muslims. And he said the Queen has killed Muslims. The Queen is responsible for the death in Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever. And you are going there. How can you say you're honored by it? You want to argue, you'll become an argument, a disputant. So then I said, so you are not in this country, that's fine. At least, I said, that's good. You are not in Darul Harb. I didn't say you're in Darul Islam, but you're in Darul Harb. Then he asked the question, I am here. I am in Britain, but when I mix with the kuffar, I don't love them. And I always speak the haqq, and I tell them what is right, and advise them against what is wrong. I do amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. So you will see your desire in Revelation all the time. Why are you here? Are you not benefiting from anything from this country, from the kuffar, or the tax they have paid on the benefit system, or the free education, or the NHS, or as an asylum seeker or a refugee? He's from Somalia. Why are you saying that? You are in this country, and you're judging me harshly. Well, you have taken benefits and advantages of being here, and you have assumed for yourself, isn't that self-righteous? That you are doing everything fine, but you have seen there should be jihad. Why don't you go and do jihad then? Nobody's stopping you. The country will not stop you getting on a plane, going elsewhere and join the Syrian army or Mujahideen Afghanistan or Eritrea, wherever you want to go. The country won't stop you. You might not be able to come back. But do it. Fi sabilillah. If that's what you believe in, you don't. So I said that nasty, suspicious character is shaitanic. You are disputant. So that's what I mean. I mean, we have to look at practical things that's happening on the ground. People amongst ourselves are like that. They take the Quran and the Sunnah and they become oblivious of gratitude, of contributing back, of thanking, understanding the favors of Allah that have been provided through others and the environment of people. So they see the desires, the disputant. He has created man from a sperm drop, and behold, the same man becomes an open disputer. Look at our origins and how we have been strengthened, how God is making us become more and more, if you like, successful. By being here, getting education, being able to navigate the internet and so forth, I can do so much, inshallah, if I get it right, for Islam. So when I mix with others, it should be on a basis of hate. God did not create anything out of hatred. Nothing out of hatred. Okay, so Jazakallah khair for that. Last few minutes, inshallah, you have an ayah here. It says, you are never able to be fair and just as between women. It's one of the ayat. Even if it is your ardent desire, my back is going to be towards you. Even if it is your ardent desire, so do not incline completely toward one and leave another hanging. فَلَا تَمِيلُوا كُلَّ الْمَيْلِ فَتَذَرُوهَا كَالْمُعَالَقَاتِ. So this word mail is used, inclination. So the point is, love has something to do with inclination. Okay. So I'm just going to make a definition of love, that's all, from the Quran. It is that quality, something about our heart, which is hard to describe, but makes us yearn for, incline towards, lean in a particular direction. A person, an ideology, a film show. I would love to go and see that film, you say casually, but your heart is inclining towards seeing this film and not that film. It's a small example. It becomes more meaningful, I'd love to be more with you, spend more time with you. Wish we could see each other more often. It's an inclination. Okay? فَلَا تَمِيلُوا كُلَّ الْمَيْلِ فَتَذَرُوهَا كَالْمُعَلَّكَةِ. The second, that was from Surah An-Nisa. The second one is saying to the Prophet ﷺ not to marry a more woman after what he has been given, or to exchange the current ones for others unnecessarily, even if their beauty were to please you. Okay? وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ حُسْنُهُنَّ. The word amazement is used. أَعْجَبَكَ, who makes you surprised or kind of like amazed. So love is stronger than mere inclination. And it is not simply simple amazement. Love has to be, according to the Quran, that which makes our heart inclined towards something about which we are amazed. Both together. That is all. So I can see a magnificent elephant or something, amazed, oh, they can grow that big. I'm not falling in love with that. Walk away, end of story. Or a tower or a mountain. You can be amazed at things. And you can be inclined, I want to go and see this film. You haven't fallen in love with that film. Now come hell or high water, make or break my life, I'm going to go and see that film. It's not like that, is it? But if two of them are combined together, then the love has begun to grow. The more intense, the greater the depth. That is all. How is our heart with respect to how we are amazed about Allah and then try to come closer to Him? If we have problems with either of these two with respect to Allah and they're not combined together, we have a problem with loving Allah. Despite the Quran I have memorized and the speeches that I give. And all the learning that you're doing, if you have a problem with these two, you're not learning. You're gathering data and you can exchange amongst yourselves, and basically all you're going to say is, I know, I've had that before. Have you? Well, I have 10 minutes before you. It's just a showing off thing. How am I amazed about Allah? How can I be amazed about Allah? And how do I incline myself towards Him? So that is love. The Quranic definition, we finish now. Quranic definition from, you understand, these two qualities have to go hand in hand. And developing these two in life is what worship is about. To be constantly be in wonderment about Allah, whether it's tahajjud prayer or going on holiday and sitting on a big open field. But worship is about that, wonderment and then coming close to Allah. And the rest of the life is about that as well. When I take my kids out to play football, to when I go shopping with whoever. It is about that as a Muslim. And that's not easy to do. Okay, let's have Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wahdahu wa salatu wa salam ala man la nabi ba'dahu. Nabiyuna Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa anna ma'ahum ila yawmiddin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh wa ba'd. I think what we are trying to do and what I'm trying to in effect achieve inshallah is trying to create an awareness about Allah that enables us to individually find our own place before Him in terms of coming nearer to Him, purifying our hearts, and then functioning as Muslims in society where we feel individually, as personally, we are actually gaining in terms of deepening faith and inshallah obtaining God's mercy. So a cautionary statement I made at the beginning was sometimes we see Islam spread and we become happy about it, which is natural, and we are sometimes taking part in Islamic activities as well, but there is a subtle thought to be had in terms of, is it for its entertainment value? The content is something that gives us enjoyment, attending talks, the speaker is good, the event, meeting people, which is all jaiz, permissible and good, or is it really, we have become so enamored with it, sucked into it, that we are beginning to lose that attention to the detail about, is my heart being purified? Am I finding myself coming closer to Allah through this? Is it really meaningful in terms of me and my relationship of servitude to Allah? So this is subtle, and sometimes I feel that for myself, and I've seen some brothers and sisters, because we don't reflect enough, we don't think enough, we don't think enough about God's favors, about our own lives. We don't think enough about Allah and our lives. We get caught up in that milieu, as it were, atmosphere of fun and enjoyment with Islam, for Islam, which is okay, I suppose, but we make very little gain out of that. Then we mentioned the importance of thinking. We said that love in the end is about being amazed by something and then inclining towards it. Very simply put. And that simple definition or understanding is derived from the Quran, particularly from Surah An-Nisa, 2 ayat, both with respect to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. in the context of woman, because the most natural love is the love that we have between the sexes. Okay? And then comes, of course, out of that, the union of that, children. So then you have the strong bond of the love of mother for the children too, and so on and so forth. So alhamdulillah, so we need to be aware that the inclination that we feel is really because of something we lack, and we want to complete ourselves with that by being part of that. It could be that I feel very inclined towards my country and amazed by my country's achievements, history, whatever you would like to call it. And so I feel incomplete unless I become somehow engaged with my country in terms of patriotism, nationalism, what have you. But it's a love for the country. It's love. I'm amazed by my country, my people, my achievements, history, what have you. And I'm amazed and I'm inclining towards it. So I do something about it. That's the love carrying me through. There has to be something commensurate, but better, more noble and refined about Allah. You know, how am I amazed about Allah, and how am I actually inclining towards Allah in practical terms? Worship is there, thinking has to be there, but I can't be worshipping and thinking all the time. I might as well live in a monastery or in a hilltop or in a jungle, you know. It's not like that. So most of the time I should be in love with Allah and realizing that love through living in society. Shopping, cooking, doing a job, plowing the field, and eating and drinking. And that's what the trick is and the hardest part is. And God consciousness creates that easy for us. But we're inclining because we lack. So when Allah loves us, it's not because He lacks something. So we have to ask this question, what does it mean that Allah loves us? So how can we then connect up with that? How do we hook up to that? Okay? So it is impossible for Allah to love us because He needs us. It's impossible for Allah to love us because He lacks something otherwise. You know, without it, He's not complete, as it were. No, He's most complete than complete. He's as-samad. Okay? Not everything is in need of Him. He's in need of nothing. So what does it mean that God loves us? How does it happen? And there are three ways, three things, and all three needs something from us. Remember the first part of the class, we said that's something from us, that working at it kind of thing, is thinking. It's nothing else. I'm the one who has to think. It's my time, it's my private thoughts, it's my feelings. You can't make me think about something I don't want to think about, you know. So it's I choose to. I have to make that choice all the time. Same way, three things. God's love for a person has to be in terms of what? Guess. God's love for a person has to be in terms of faith. What? What do you mean? That He gave us faith? No. He loves us, so in terms of how? It is faith, it's all because of faith. No, you're right, it's general, but let's do a bit more specific. Well, He loves us by purifying us. Now, how else is He? Not because He needs us, and He loves us, so we do things, and we do things which angers Him, or which are disobedient, or unwise, and still He overlooks and forgives. He purifies us, He forgives. That's how God's love works with us, isn't it? He forgives. So I have there purifying us. So maybe that's what you meant. Because by faith He purifies our hearts, isn't it? Purifies our hearts. But also, not just purifying. Purifying means what? That He has forgiven or overlooked a trespass, a sin of an omission or a commission, isn't it? We did something or didn't do something which is displeasing to Allah. And yet Allah forgave or overlooked. When He forgave, He purified us. But He also protects us. Do we have to sin first? He stops us from sinning in the first place. And that's faith again. Because the greatest sin is a sin of denying Allah. After having accepted Allah, the greatest sin is associating partners with Allah. And He has protected us from both. And out of his mercy, he protected all of humanity really, but we threw off that protection when he gave every human being the intrinsic capability to recognize and accept God.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
That's what you meant. Does that more? So you're right. No, you're right. Of course, you're right. It's faith. Yeah, faith. The natural quality of being able to recognize Allah or yearn for God or have something that yearns for this unknown power, benevolent power, if you like, creative, benevolent power. You know, until it's defined, it's kind of like woolly like that. But yeah, so he protects us, and he's protected all of humanity really. But he gave us a choice. The critical thing is we have a choice. He doesn't force us to think, but he, out of his love, gave us intellect and made things evident, sent clear guidance at the hands of the best performing, best examples, people who are of the most meticulous character in terms of truthfulness and integrity. We still have a choice. And we can walk away and say, "Oh, no, thank you, don't want it. I think it's silly." So he has protected all of us out of his mercy. His mercy has prevailed and has covered everything. It's all expansive. And the third thing I have is, it's a bit more, we said thinking and thought and so on. It's about giving us insight or enlightenment or clarity of understanding or intelligence and these kind of things. So you can protect someone, put a barrier up so you can't get to fall into the hole. You can, have everything in place so if somebody does fall into, then you can put a bandage and things, all the medical first aid kit, everything is there, and make sure if somebody falls, you don't tell him, "Oh, why did you fall? Why did you climb over the fence?" So then you take care of that. But isn't it better if the person was given the understanding, well, must you walk so close to the edge with where the wall is and lean on it, and don't do that. So a person naturally avoids and say, "Well, no, I'm still safe, the wall is safe and the hole is not that deep, but why just walk this side of the road?" That's a petty example, insight, but it's like that. Some of it is natural to our instinct, that's again faith, and some of it is through thinking, but all three is our choice. And that's how Allah loves, God's love for a person in terms of, He protects, He purifies, He gives us understanding. But all three requires us to do something, think, to hook up to, to connect. So Allah has both His hands outstretched, as it says, but we are the ones who can bar or prevent the bounties of Allah coming to us. He provides, but we can stop that provision coming. He is merciful, extends His mercy, we can move away from it. We have the choice. Okay? So this is what our scholars teach us, inshallah ta'ala. And that's what we need to understand. So if I understood that, then I would know that the prohibitions in Islam are a means of protecting me from what is bad for me. And it comes from the heart, it becomes easier. Then I don't indulge, although I'm severely tempted. And that's the test of my strength of faith or understanding or my self-discipline. I know He purifies, so I never become desperate or despairing of my shortcomings or failures or sinfulness. I know He purifies, He does forgive. So I turn to Him. So He has protected me with faith and do these two things. But then I must think and I grow deeper in knowledge. So 5 minutes of reflection, as I said, on a grain of sand can be more meaningful than a half an hour of random thoughts while walking on the beach and just ignoring everything. But just sit down and just pick up a sand or a pebble and think. That's more meaningful.
Yeah. Do you think it's alright if you put inside in provide contents? Because I think inside is a small part of what He provided, so not only inside.
Provide.
Yeah. Please.
Inside part of the provisions of Allah. From what He has given us, basically it gives us material things as well as mental things, and so inside is like contained in under the headings of God's provisions. He's provided us provisions. Absolutely acceptable. Allah Razzaq has provided material, spiritual, but He's given us the intellect and a beating heart as well. He's given us intelligence as well as guidance and so on. You can do. So now from that we proceed. We are talking about love. Love is dependent upon reflection. It's about receiving from Allah, and it's to know that it has to something to do with beautiful or beauty. Somehow or other, I have to learn. When we say amazed, or this wonderment about Allah, and we say that, then I incline towards, well, husnahunna, it says in the ayah, وَلَا عَجَابَكُمْ حُسْنَهُنَّ. Although their beauty may amaze you, something causes the amazement. So love really has a lot to do with beauty as well. The beauty amazes, and the heart inclined towards. Could be a woman, could be a nice car. But in terms of relationship, meaningful, something more, organic, let's talk about relationship, not cars and trees. So beauty. I have a relationship with Allah. Do I know Allah is beautiful? Because yes, that's Al-Jamil. He's Al-Jamil and He likes beauty. But sometimes I struggle. I do know Allah creates. I know Allah provides. I know Allah is strong. Dhal Quwwatil Mateen. Very strong and very able. Al-Qahhar. Al-Aziz Al-Jabbar. Beautiful. Then how do I know Allah beautiful? I think it has to be in creation, isn't it? Do I find creation beautiful? How can I? I just take it for granted. It's there. I know it's scientifically a miracle, therefore there is God. I can argue rationally. But do I appreciate from the heart beauty of creation? Why can't I? Why don't I? What will make me? How would I? Am I becoming soppy, effeminate, feminine? Well, it's important. I cannot love Allah unless I know Allah is beautiful. Allah is beautiful, I know that because I can contemplate, which is my responsibility, on creation. All that He has created is beautiful. And it doesn't appear so, it's a struggle, but that's what my religious training and worship and thought is meant to achieve. And that's my life struggle. Does that make me a softy person? Well, who am I trying to be macho in front of? Who am I trying to impress with my brawn? God? No. You and me, you and her? Why? Think what you like. If I get my relationship with Allah on a proper footing, proper foundation, Allah will honor me, angels will honor me, Allah will appoint people to honor me. So how else can you explain that the Prophet ﷺ or Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu or people like them were the kindest and softest and the gentlest of people? From the handshake to never being able to recite the Quran on occasions except just breaking down in tears. Or meeting each other and openly weeping in public. And they were the most valiant warriors. Allah says in the Quran, الَّذِي أَحْسَنَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَهُ وَبَدَأَ خَلْقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ طِينٍ. He who has made everything which He has created most good in perfect beauty. Allah has created everything in beauty. Part of my struggle, what I have to overcome and learn, and some of it will come naturally because I'm a human being, some of it will not, some of it will be spoiled because of my pettiness and ignorance, lack of contemplation. I will think some things are not worthy, some things are ugly, some things are not beautiful. And that's what a person does in terms of reflection, overcomes that, inshallah. Allah loves, and Allah loves beauty in general. And out of that He's given us all these favors, as we mentioned before, out of His love. So every single quality that He has given us, that we admire, is a beautiful quality, isn't it? What do you like? What would you think is a beautiful quality? You name it. Let's not do religious talk, just do a simple brainstorming. What do you think is a beautiful quality? Just name it at random. They'll be beautiful. What is a good quality? Truthfulness? Being friendly? Smiling? They're all beautiful. Aren't they? Can any one of them you can say is not beautiful? Being benevolent, charitable, to empathize, to be helpful, supportive,
Trustworthy.
Trustworthy. Aren't they beautiful qualities? So there is a way, it's not physical, there is a way of admiring beauty through the abstract qualities. That's the important thing. There are abstract qualities which we don't dwell upon and learn to recognize in us and others and in creation. There is integrity and trustworthiness and truthfulness in creation, in animate objects, in bricks and stones. Yeah? There is purity in those things, abstract qualities. And then of course there's physical. You can say, oh, I like the way things are proportioned, the painting to the sculpture to the field of corn or what have you. That's different. I mean, that's His beauty. When we go into the abstract qualities and see that in creation. And then we understand when Allah says Allah created everything in haqq, in truth, in balance, in truth. So He loves beauty and He loves all those particular qualities which we find good because they're all beautiful and they're all qualities of the heart. Okay? They're all qualities of the heart. It's not about my speed, how fast I can punch to, my height or anything like that, is it? Every single good quality, which are abstract, every single good quality is beautiful, and every single one of them is to do with the heart. Because they are abstract feelings. It's almost a tautology, isn't it? I mean, it has to be. Truthfulness is not of the hand, is it? But I will see all these qualities somehow present in how creation has been molded and presented. So when Pharaoh, we are told in the Quran, when Pharaoh asked Musa alayhi salam about Allah, he said, رَبُّنَا الَّذِي أَعْطَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلْقَهُ. Allah is the one who gave everything its nature, its khuluq, its nature, its character, everything. So here is Moses, peace be on him, explaining to the great tyrant who himself thinks is God, that God is, when I ask about God, God is He who has given everything that exists its nature, its character. What is my character? What is your character? What is the Muslim character? What is the character of a bird or character of a tree or a blade of grass? Where does the corruption lie? Where does the spoiling happen? Where does it become weakened? So this is why we have to, inshallah, reflect and think. And the devotion has to precede worship on that line. Don't get mechanical. The worst thing that we can do with God's religion, Allah who is beautiful, gave us a beautiful religion. Don't just say Islam is beautiful. Anybody can say it. And then we make something out of Islam which is very ugly. Because we do all the things which are not good qualities with one another. I'll give you one example in the first part. With each other. We become disputant, argumentative. We argue with the religion. We think we know the answer, and it's an absolute answer. It's not. From lacking respect about different ideas or opinions or interpretations which are valid, done by qualified people, from lacking respect to arrogating to oneself one particular position and saying, that's it, you guys are, all the other people are wrong. That's not the way. That's why you end up mocking people who are devoted, but perhaps a bit mystical, philosophical. That's the inclination. And said something and we start laughing at them. And that happened dramatically I remember 2-3 years ago in East Ham when I was with some brothers, and he had gone to the States, and because he had gone to the States to be with this particular Sufi group, I don't know why I'm ending up supporting Sufis today. I'm not a Sufi in that way, by the way. So when the Sufi group, we asked him, so you went to that meeting, you heard the Sheikh so-and-so and whatnot, so what did you find? Because there is some observations, objections, or something to be criticized. Not everybody is correct in everything, obviously, but there is a perception, we have an understanding. So what did you find? And the amazing answer was that he didn't find anything actually. Maybe he didn't do his homework or investigation. He said, well, we know there's Sufis in it. We know there's Sufis in it. I mean, come on. That is not going to save you on the day of judgment, saying anything like that about Sufis. But that's the attitude we take, this mocking, scoffing, because we ourselves have not understood about Allah. We think we are it. I know how to criticize and find faults and show you wrong from a technical manual. It's a manual Islam, isn't it? So, who is the Lord of you two, O Moses? He said, our Lord is He who gave each thing its form and nature, and then guided it. ثُمَّ هَدَى, and then guided it. So, nature is a free gift. Nature is a free, our nature, our character, our disposition, properties, everything that we have abstract is a free gift. It's a gift from Allah out of His love, His mercy and love. Understand that. And God, Allah is beautiful. He likes that which is beautiful. We should try and see beauty in creation. And He has given us our nature out of His love for us, as an act of love. So we can spoil it by seeing things ugly and not trying to see God's love and beauty in the rest of creation. That is not the type of reflective heart we want. And if our entertainment kind of way of following Islam does not develop that, then that's precisely what we're doing. We're enjoying Islam without ever coming closer to Allah. It's as if God exists for our self-development and not for us to worship Him, so we become beloved to Him. Do you see the subtle difference? God exists for our self-development. Many of the non-Muslim faiths are like that. Popular modern-day faith. Very articulate, very sleek and presentable, and it grabs people, gets them into the church, so to speak. Because God is made to serve you for your becoming, look, your potential, you can become greater, so successful. And many Muslims are unfortunately caught up in that type of scenario. I feel, you can disagree, but it should be the other way around. Allah is Allah. We exist to worship Him, not He exists for our self-development on earth. So I become a successful career person. So this free gift of our nature is through which Allah endows us with love in the first place. Our nature itself should be geared towards recognizing and using this abstract quality of love from the heart. The funny thing is, we won't have time today, obviously, or even next week, but if you go into the books of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, you will find that's how he explains everything. The one who is much maligned, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah is much maligned. He's held responsible for causing or giving rise to a lot of extreme ideas, from jihadist ideas to all sorts of things, very anti-Sufi or something and so forth. In the end, though, if you look at his books and his writings and stuff properly, and take a whole kind of picture, he always maintained this, basically. That God has created everything out of love, and everything happens, our actions, everything should be for the love of Allah, nothing else. A severely misunderstood person, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. So the example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like the seed, like a seed of grain which grows 7 spathes or spikes. In each spike is 100 grains. Each spathe is 100 grains. And Allah multiplies His reward for whom He wills. Allah is all-encompassing and knowing. Wasi'un alim. But the word used is مَثَلَ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالِهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ الْحَبَّةِ. The word is habba. It's from the word hope, love. And we mentioned this before. So it should be like the seed, which nurtures, which grows and yields a lot more. So one of the effect of love should be to yield something. The effect. Okay. Love should give rise to something. And it should be more of. There should be an increase in something. If I love Allah, and I have an example of the seed, or a charity is like a seed which grows like a spades with lots of grains and so on. It multiplies. My devotion to Allah, my belief in Allah, my actions for Allah, what is it increasing in society, in family, for myself? What is the outcome I'm producing for myself? Or society, people think. We have been given the heart to feel and the head to think with. This is reflection, contemplation. More you think, more honor on the day of judgment. More knowledge we have. What is the knowledge we have about this? Oh, I love Allah. We always say, I love Allah. We love Allah. Without Allah, we are nothing. I see all these Facebook statuses. Some sister or brother writes it and 20 likes straight away. What do you mean? So make a random statement, without Allah we are nothing. Of course, yeah, okay, it's true, good. Nobody bothers to explain, nothing happens. It reinforces what is already there, which is still part of this culture we have built, which does not help us to reflect. What have we increased? So, what I had was to think of all the qualities I've said. Think of the qualities that relate to love. There should be an increase in those qualities. What are the qualities you would relate to love? Are all those good qualities we mentioned, abstract qualities, isn't it? Truthfulness, trustworthiness, anything like that. Generosity, sincerity. Those are the qualities which are beautiful, which are to do with love. So if I love Allah, I should find an increase in all those qualities in myself, in my family, amongst the people, in neighborhood, society, country, earth. Shouldn't I? How else do I love Allah, and what is the effect? So he said, okay, what sort of love is that? When you love, it's only one way and nothing happens the other way around. What's that called? A special word for it, isn't it? Unrequited love or something. Yeah, something like that. What was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. Do you think Allah is cruel like that? Yeah? Allah is Ash-Shakur. Allah is loving. How? So increase has to happen. And so we can list dependability. I put down forgiveness, liberality, like in Al-Jawad, liberality, overlooking of faults. So I said, did you not find these qualities among the names of Allah? Do you not find these, any of these good? Of course you find them. Each one of them. You can mention from your heart, without coming into religion, just from the heart. What are good qualities? What do you think pertains to beautiful? Yeah, beautiful quality. You'll find each one of them are mentioned. Okay? So then I made the question, did you then dwell on them, on those qualities, as names of Allah, as Allah? And did you then find your mind at rest with them? Did you find your heart contented with them? And then finding peace and serenity on that? How else have you reflected on Allah? Were you able to, or you could not? I was so disturbed. I couldn't think in terms of generosity or liberality and things like that. Because, political agitation and my job situation and, and all the troubles I'm facing at home or outside with my friends, and we haven't got time for such kind of soppy thinking. I'll still pray though. I could go to the mosque, pray and run out, and that's it. So we are praying, we are fasting, we are talking, we are doing dawah, and we are remaining stagnant. How are we coming closer to Allah? Where is this increase? Where is that analogy of the seed? I know it's not that we're telling each other off. I'm not telling anyone off except myself. So you may understand why, as I grow older and I become less firm, why I become melodramatic or sentimental or something. But this is how I think. This is how I sometimes feel. And you can say, that guy is going soft in the head now, he's becoming Sufi or something. Fine. Labels, you can do anything, call whatever you like. But this is understanding of Islam. Did you not dwell on them and let your mind rest on them and your heart become calm with them? We are agitated, we have problems, we have anxieties, issues, fears. Did your heart become calm on reflecting on those beautiful qualities that are to do with love, that I know Allah through, because His names belong to those qualities belong in many of His names. All of them in the name Allah. And that's how I reflect. Then I find reassurance, find strength, then I find hope, then I find, okay, I still believe in a God like that, and I calm myself down. Problem is not sorted, it's still there. Tomorrow morning, how am I going to, which job should I go to, or do I have a job? But I'm a Muslim. I have reflected and I've calmed myself down, and should I die in suffering, I have died in gratitude, in love with Allah. Allah will give me the hereafter. So if not, the question is, how did you remember Allah then, and how did you reassure yourself? As a Muslim, as a person who knows that Tawheed, as somebody who knows Allah, how did you reassure yourself and think about Allah then? How was it? The two quick prostrations, mechanical, And that's it, off I go. That's why sometimes life does not change. We remain agitated, disturbed, bad-mannered, impatient people. We increase the number of prostrations, we haven't thought, we haven't reflected on Allah, we haven't got love. Because it's too sentimental for some of us men folk. I'd rather be seen in a picture with my face mask with a gun in my hand. Islam, it will prevail. You are saying you want to prevail, don't you? You want to rule. You want to Islam will dominate. No, you want to dominate. Your heart wants to dominate over other people. You want to rule. That is corrupt. It's not for the love of Allah. You ignore all your own weaknesses, your own sins, all the defects we have, and you want to be judgmental, and you want to be on top of that harsh, and you want the power and the authority, and you justify with God. And that's what problems you see everywhere. Give an inch, we want to take a mile because we are Islamists. That's what's happening all over the world now. So these names, Al-Latif, Allah is gentle. Al-Ra'uf, kind. Generous, Al-Kareem. Al-Halim, forbearance. Al-Jamil we mentioned. Al-Wakil, absolutely reliable. Al-Wali, friend, guardian. Al-Bar, good. Allah is good. Al-Ghafur, Al-Ghaffar, Al-Tawwab, one who accepts repentance. Allah is Al-Jawad, we mentioned. Al-Afu, one who pardons, overlooks. Allah is Al-Wadud, the loving. All these names, all these qualities, there should be an increase in my life amongst the people, because that's the analogy given. That's the way to reflect. And I find myself, I can't do that. So that's why the ayah will make sense now. وَاسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ إِنَّ رَبِّ رَحِيمٌ وَدُودٌ. But ask forgiveness for your Lord, of your Lord. Turn to Him, for my Lord, Inna Rabbi Rahimun Wadud. For my Lord is indeed Rahim, full of mercy, and loving, Al-Wadud. But wastaghfiru, seek forgiveness of Allah. That's what we should be. That's why when the scholars say, we like to quote from the Salaf, because so-and-so said so, it garnishes our talk and seems nice. Oh, so-and-so from pious predecessors said something. No, instead of all these things, go home, cry over your sins. And we say it out of context just to beautify a speech. It has to come from an understanding. So when the Salaf spoke, they spoke with an understanding deeply embedded in their love of Allah. Love, nothing else. He wasn't seeking power and authority and domination. Instead of this, instead of that, cry over your sins. وَهُوَ الْغَفُورُ الْوَدُودُ. Al-Wadud, last 5 minutes left. Al-Wadud is never mentioned in the Quran. This name Al-Wadud, Al-Ghafur Al-Wadud. Al-Wadud, the loving, the most loving, Allah's love, is never mentioned in the Quran without associating with forgiveness and mercy. Ghafur and Rahim. And that's mentioned about 25 times. Okay? Never mentioned. So love and mercy is inseparable. You can't say I'm merciful but I'm not loving, I'm cruel. If you do that, there's something wrong. They're inseparable. So every single ayah that talks about mercy of Allah, and now it could be countless almost, talks about Allah's love. Because you cannot separate them. They're mentioned in conjunction all the time. And that's how the human heart, the Muslim, learns and performs, operates in society. That's how I need to develop, that's how I need your support, and I guess you need my support. To develop this in our da'wah, in our anything we do, an act of charity, going for a picnic for fun, why not? We all go and take a day out for fun, have a barbecue. But it's this, the love and mercy. Inseparable. And before all that, we're going to finish now, it comes actually from the very act of creation, because Rahim, is the womb. And that ayah, if you now look at the ayah and the hadith about so many, of course, alhamdulillah. Whoever cuts you, why cut you off? So think about the womb, think about how it is the mercy of Allah that the womb is where it is and how the fetus is protected and how it's nurtured. All of that through God's mercy. So when a baby is born, then what is there for the baby to receive? The love of the mom who cares selflessly. So love, we can say mercy actually precedes, from mercy comes love. And so the name which is most mentioned is Ar-Rahman. It's connected to love. By essence, he's loving as well. But it's the mercy that produces love. It cannot be that God is merciful, He doesn't love. Okay. I am Allah, Hadith Qudsi, I am Allah, I am the compassionate one, Ar-Rahman. I created the womb, Rahm, and named it after my name. He who keeps his ties, I shall keep my ties with him. And he who cuts its ties, I shall cut him off from me. So that's the hadith from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. So mercy produces love. You can almost do an arrow like that as well. It's inseparable, but one produces the other. And Allah created everything and equated His name with that. So call upon Allah, call upon Allah, call upon Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman. By whatever name you call Him, أَيَّمَّنْ تَدْعُوهُ فَلَهُ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. Whatever name you call upon Him, to Him belongs the most beautiful names. كَتَبَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ الرَّحْمَةِ. Your Lord has written for Himself the rule of mercy. It's love. So I'm going to finish with this. To see love in creation and to see God's love in creation is something we have to do. Two things. Try to see, and we'll continue from next time inshallah. See love in creation. So we have jumped, can you see a jump? From beauty now to love. Not only must we learn to see beauty in creation, then we should see love in creation. I see how, perhaps his interpretation is individually, however you want to think about it. How the moon turns around the sun. Be poetic. Gravitational pulls, anything you like. But see love. But the animal kingdom, the ants, everything. Love in creation, and then you see God's love in creation. Two slightly different things, of course. We have to learn to do that. With that, when it's fully clear, vivid, it's nothing hidden. The Prophet was like that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mercy to the worlds. Rahmatul alameen. Imagine the heart and the feeling. When everything is beautiful and you love everything, fi sabilillah, because of the love and faith in Allah, then you approach, whether it's fighting and whether it's loving, how pure that is and what that builds. Love in creation. We see love in creation. I see a couple, Muslim or non-Muslim, couple walking, playing with kids. I see love in creation. Then I think Allah has put love, part of His mind. So I see God's love in that happy couple playing with the kids. Whether they're Muslim or who cares? Human beings, cats and dogs, loving. Some tenderness in society. Flowers blooming, rain falling, grass swaying in the field. See love in creation, God's love in creation. Believing in Allah and Tawheed, understanding, then approach life. Then you do your wala and bara and enjoining goodness, forbidding evil. Imagine the strength of that. 10 people like that is worth 10,000 others. We've got 10,000 now shouting people who don't want to really love Allah, but see their desires in their faith. And talk about Islam will dominate. May Allah guide me and guide you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us upon the truth. May Allah forgive all the Muslims, past, present and future. And may Allah make us all successful in this life and the hereafter. Ameen. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. I have one small